Hey YouTube, it's Mike here. Seem to be doing a lot of fish videos lately, but apparently it is the season. This is my one tank here that I put the 90 freshly born black mollies into. You can see them kind of hanging out there. I boosted a bunch of air into it just to keep it well oxygenated, and I've been feeding them very finely ground up flakes, just regular tropical fish flakes, and there's lots of kind of vegetable-ish matter in here for them to eat. But now what I want to show you is my very high-end unit here. It's actually in the tank, and what it's for, this unit that I'm going to try to show you, is for hatching brine shrimp. And I think if you've done a little bit of research already, you know that baby brine shrimp are almost an essential to get into some young fish once or twice. And I don't know, I remember when I first started looking into it, it was made out to be a lot more complicated than it really is. And even when you read the package that the brine shrimp eggs come in, it's hard to even know how to interpret it, because it does make it sound like it's a fairly complicated thing. So to build my high-end unit, I think I'll go through that. You can buy brine shrimp egg hatching units. I didn't do that because I'm way too cheap, and I'm trying to remember. I know I saw a couple of different ideas like mine for the brine shrimp hatchery, but this is kind of my version of it, I guess. And so what I've got down here is the bottom part of I think these were what in Canada would be a 1 liter, or maybe 750 mil, something like that. It's a reasonable size. It's not a 2 liter bottle, but it's a decent size. So this is the bottom. I drilled a hole to get the an air line in, and in here you'll see I have a piece of solder wire, as well as a few pellets from a pellet gun to act as weights. And then I have another pop bottle with the cap. I drilled the cap out, and then I used some very complicated procedure where I just simply drilled a hole, stuck the tube in, and then used hot glue and hot glued it there. And that's been working for about a year. And then I had cut the top off of the bottom bottle, which basically becomes a support later on. I'd cut the top off it. I put this top in. I probably wouldn't have had to, but because I wanted to make kind of a permanent unit, what I did was I hot glued around here. I did end up having to poke a couple of holes around, because there's some basic simple things that you need to hatch brine shrimp. And one of them is to have a temperature that's pretty consistent, and like if you're running your fish tank, I'm trying to see right now, I want to say this tank is it's over 25 C, which is a little over 70 Fahrenheit. So I know the temperature is an issue. If it's too cold, they don't do well, or they take a lot longer. So you need a consistent temperature. So that's why this is in the tank like this, right with the fish where it's going to go. And that's why I've had to put the weights in here to keep it upright. Then you've got to keep the eggs circulating in well oxygenated water. So that's this. Basically, the hose is as flush to the cap as I could have got it. I can pull that cap off if I took this all apart. But basically all that's doing is that's keeping all these brine shrimp eggs suspended. We're about halfway through. These late tonight, these will be ready to go, maybe sooner. But the basic instructions, just to simplify, is you get your brine shrimp, which I have here. Comes in a little vial, the stuff I get. I know there's a bunch of measurements and whatever. I take this cap and I fill it. I turn it, I just put maybe half or 3/4 of a cap worth of eggs because I only have the 90 babies. Dump that in this container. Once I have filled it with water, and I just use water right from the tank, and then lower it in here, put the eggs in once the bubbler's going, and you'll see there's lots of different time recommendations for it, but you'll see when the eggs have actually kind of absorbed a bit of the water and are no longer floating. At first they're so dry they almost kind of are, they don't want to mix right away. So you leave it fresh water, straight from the tank is what I prefer. Let them bubble for a bit. I think some places say half an hour or whatever. I've kind of thrown away those rules because I realized pretty early on, me being an experimental type of person, they will mix with the water a lot sooner than that. And then you need salt. Right now I'm using aquarium salt in there. It's got a bunch of other stuff, and actually the mollies here, they don't mind a bit of a what they call a brackish, so a slightly salty water. I guess they hang out where the ocean and freshwater, the salt in the freshwater areas meet a lot of times. It's actually pretty good for their health. So by using the actual aquarium salt in with my brine shrimp, I tend to not actually filter as much as some people do, because I'm not afraid. As long as I know I'm not over salted in my water, I can pretty well dump that right in there, and I just have the shell problem, which really isn't a problem. I have snails and such that will eat the egg shells. I have used regular table salt, doesn't seem to be a problem. I just came up with the idea of just using the aquarium salt because some places called for it, some were less specific. As far as amounts, I don't know if you've ever cooked before, but when you cook and you do that little spot of salt in the palm of your hand where crevice is there, teaspoon, whatever it works out to be, in this, that's what I put in for salt. For that half to 3/4 of a cap of this little vial of brine shrimp eggs. I mean, and these last me a long time because really I only feed brine shrimp a couple of times when the babies are quite young, and when I feed them I shut all the filters and everything off that are actually filtering water. I leave bubblers on, and what will happen is, because the brine shrimp can actually seem to do all right in some fresh water for a while, that'll be like one hatching of eggs in here will be a few days worth of food in the tank, and because it's live I don't have to worry about it polluting the tank. So that's a big bonus to me. So I guess what I would like to do, this is getting to be another long video, but I'm going to see if I can kind of focus in here and shut down. I have a valve on here. Shut down the air and see. We're about halfway through because they usually say 24 hours to get the brine shrimp going. And what we may be able to see, if the lighting is going to work for me, I don't know. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see that or not. There's not many hatched yet, and the one way to tell is at the top. You'll see a lot of the shells will float up there. And then if you wanted to separate out the brine shrimp, what they do, or what one does, is I actually use, this is a LED puck light. Let me blind you for a sec. I will face that up and then actually set this on there, which is why the air hose comes out the side. And I'll just have the air hose, and I take the air line and I just clip it with something like this to the top and set it. Give it 20 minutes with the light hitting the bottom here, and you'll see all the brine shrimp swim down as hard as they can. And then you can use the air hose to just kind of like squeeze out until the majority of the brine shrimp are left. And then I know lots of people that will take and put the leftover water and shell and everything else, and I've done it too, into another container and put a bubbler in there, and basically your brine shrimp can sit in there and grow for quite long periods of time, as long as they seem to have lots of light and air, which I better get that back on. So yeah, that's don't be scared of brine shrimp, especially hatching your own. It's a relatively cheap, easy live food source, and if you're gonna have live babies and try to get them separated out, or even with adults, these baby brine shrimp are a wonderful food source, and it's not something to be afraid of. The biggest thing I was finding is that everybody seemed to make it so complicated, or sound so complicated, and once I actually have started doing it, made my own unit to hatch them in, which was basically free except for some hot glue. I think it's a great way to go, and like I say, don't be afraid to do it. It's not a big deal. It's one of those things where they make it sound awfully scary, and yet it is a cheap way to feed your fish and get great results. Any questions, feel free to ask. Sorry the video got so long. Hope there's information in here that's helpful. Okay, talk to you.